reactionary parties in Germany itself that, look, the people who think that this was a Nazi salute are pretty much everybody left of center, and actual Nazis also were like, that's our guy.
Okay, go.
I just can't believe that, I'm supposed to believe that the smartest man on the planet, this brilliant genius, doesn't know what he's doing in this situation. Like, come on.
Yeah, but don't we also know he's a fucking idiot at times, and just like anybody moving around does weird, socially awkward stuff, like maybe a guy named Elon who's acted like this for his entire life.
If he hadn't dabbled in Nazi ideology, I would be more likely to give him the benefit of the doubt.
You can't say talking about birth rates is Nazi ideology.
And then the other thing is...
And why is a guy who's a Nazi advocating for more unrestricted H-1B Indian visas at his company? That's like pretty, right? So that kind of conflicts a little bit with racialist ideology. This just gets to the whole election. Everybody's tried this shit before. Nazism, birth rates, if you care about immigration, it's been totally rejected at the ballot box. People who are predominantly black and Hispanic are the majority, new entrants to the Trump coalition specifically on behalf of this. Terms have meaning. Elon is not, look, and people here know, I'm not some Elon fanboy. I hate community notes. Twitter has gotten way more annoying ever since we used it. The reason why I think Nazis get elevated on your Twitter feed is because the algorithm is designed to piss you off.
To elevate Nazis.
Yeah, and you know what I get too on mine? I get a bunch of shithead leftists who are constantly bitching about race or whatever, because that's what makes me mad, or trans bullshit. That's what I'm trying to say. So, like saying the right-wing reactionary party. AfD believes in less immigration for Germany. That's not Nazi. Talking about birth rates, that's not Nazi. Saying that people who care about those issues are Nazi adjacent is the same thing as tagging people like you who have your beliefs and saying it's communist. Ludicrous. That's not communism to believe in a fire department. Oh, that's collectivism, which is part of Karl Marx. Again, like these terms are clear, delineated. People naturally understand that when we say Nazi has a very specific connotation, meaning, intent, belief, policy, do we really believe that Elon has that? There is no evidence for it unless you seek that interpretation I just made about drawing any sort of like socialist or any sort of democratic socialist belief and saying you're a full-blown Marxist. I mean, that we don't talk like that here. Why does it apply to Nazism?
Well, I mean, it sure looks like a Nazi salute, and he's dabbled in Nazi ideology.
But what does that mean? What does Nazi ideology mean?
I would be very much more willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, if not for that, and the fact that he did it twice, and the fact that a bunch of Nazis think that it was a Nazi salute.
What does Nazi ideology has Elon proposed? Saying that we have to care about birth rates and we want less immigration? That's not a Nazi policy.
Yeah,
That's actually overwhelmingly popular
Look, all this conversation about, birth rate and civilization decline and invasions and, racializing crime, all of these things are adjacent. So,
but that's like saying democratic socialism is Marxism. Is that adjacent to communism? Obviously, kinda.
I think this man knows what he's doing.
No, I don't.
I absolutely think this man knows what he's doing. And so, look, do I think that people are going to care? Do I think it does feel sort of like, 2017-ish and like kind of cringe or whatever? Yeah, but guess what? Sometimes things that are popular are bad. Sometimes things that are popular are like actually genuinely evil. And that is not going to stop me from speaking out against things that I think are wrong and extremism that I think has been welcomed back into political discourse. And yeah, I do think AfD is an extremist party. I think his backing of that, his dabbling in the UK political situation, like he's going further than Nigel Farage even is willing to go in terms of, backing Tommy Robinson, who was an explicit racist Islamophobe, who was in prison for horrifically smearing this teenage kid and lying about him. And so, yeah, I don't think it's crazy to think that, this is a signal that he's throwing out there and give himself enough plausible deniability. I think that is what's going on.
I just think it's I honestly think that's ridiculous. To say that is an intentional Sieg Heil salute. By the way, has this been beneficial to the Trump movement or Elon Musk or Tesla or even his other companies? I think the guy is just spastic and weird. Anybody I know who's ever met Elon
You're not
tells
buying
me
the
same.
Roman salute coat?
No. I was going to say Roman salute. If we all wanted to talk, right? As an Indian, actually, like, you know, this is something that's always pissed me off, is that Hitler appropriated various different symbols that have now become conflated with Nazism. So for example, many Hindus, a lot of white tourists, when they go to India, they're like, why are there so many Nazi swastikas over here? It's like, oh, turns out it's an ancient Hindu symbol. It's the other way. And the swastika is, you know, something that has nothing to do with that in India. And in India, they're very able to say, yeah, actually, it's an ancient Hindu symbol. And yes, the Nazis use it, so we're not just going to let people tar it, and we'll actually continue to paint it on temple floors, put it all over, and we're just going to continue. With the Roman salute, the quote-unquote Sieg Heil was literally appropriated from the ancient Roman salute, which is famous in many of these statues. Now, am I going to go around Sieg Heiling or Roman saluting? No.
Well, also the Roman salute apparently was not a real thing. It was like made up movies and then adopted by fascists.
That's right. It was appropriated by fascist ideology in the early 1900s, specifically Mussolini, Oswald Mosley, and others, because they were trying to, specifically Mussolini as well, to try and bring back this idea of like Romanism and greatness to the Italian Empire, which also Hitler was greatly influenced by in the 1920s. But again, with Elon, with all of this, Nazism and calling someone a Nazi, or even implying all this stuff around people, is, in my opinion, a huge reason why the cultural left has so much less credibility and the media today. Like, you have to ask people very basic questions like I just did. Do you think this person is a Nazi? Like, and look, maybe you do. I don't think that that's the case at all. And to get there, you have to do what, you know, all this mental gymnastics about adjacency, which I find just as annoying when right-wingers say this about any social democratic thing and say, that's literal Stalin-esque communism.
I would
it's
say
the same thing.
I think he and I think Trump are, like, I think this administration is a fascist administration. Like, we've had this debate before. Yeah. But if you look at the definition, and especially with the merging of, you know, the richest man in the world and the business with the government, and, you know, I mean, we have a raft of executive orders that are enlisting the military in draconian border policies, like, you know, not to be whatever, but like you said, words do have meaning. And if you look through the definition, yeah, I think it fits. I do think that this is a fascist administration that at its core that is in power. I think Elon is obviously a key part of that. So that's what I would say.
I mean, okay, I just think this will go on forever. But I mean, again, it's like it's deeply within the American context, which I don't think has always been quote unquote fascist.
The American context has flirted with fascism in the past. So I'm not saying it's not American.
As long as that's being qualified, like that's fine. But it's like, again, like terms I think are important. And I also think they should be reserved for extraordinary things. So if we have Reichstag fires, false flags, militarization, end of government, and then the fusing of the economy and the state, then sure, I'll talk about fascism. Until that, as long as there's a court system and a Congress, which can frequently and often does change, and a democratic populace that frequently changes its mind and has the ability to have pushback, et cetera, like to say they're living in a fascist country is just frankly insane. I mean, you can say that there's fascist tendencies or would want to be, you know, fine. I mean, I think all of those are okay, but
I think it would want to be, and I, you know, this is what I've expressed for a while, that I think this administration, because there are no real checks left, because there are no real guardrails left, will be able to more fully exercise those tendencies this time around. And, you know, I think there's already some significant signs of that.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, if we're using the idea of executive power or use of the military or whatever, if that's always fascist, then that erases the meaning in the act. No, but if that's the tendency, then it erases the meaning of that. And then that means then that FDR, who often did many of the same things that Trump is currently doing, actually far more in terms of his executive power.
Fascism is explicitly right-wing.
No, not necessarily. Yeah. No, well, I mean, Mussolini started out as a socialist.
Any definition of fascism, any basic definition that you would look up online, one of the descriptors would be far right.
Well, it's difficult, and that's more because of a connotative with the Hitlerism. If we actually look and study like the history of fascism in Italy, a lot of it started out as it was left-wing that got fused with nationalism, kind of beside the point. The issue is not about right-wing per se. We're talking about tendencies. Like the reason why you're using the term is because of actions like military or executive order. Those are standard executive powers under the American imperial presidency. Like, again, FDR
ending
would have
birthright
been
citizenship, which is part of the Constitution, is not a standard executive
Okay,
order.
but if it gets struck down
invoking
by
the Foreign Enemies Act, is that what it's called?
Alien Enemies Act.
Yeah, the Alien Enemies Act, which is what was used to justify Japanese internment and has never been used